Hi folks, Chris Mask from Eastland Community TV's Off the Chip Wagon, food sport competitor, been on reality TV a couple times. Oh yeah, I do barbecue as well. Plus I talk about food, a lot in fact, thanks to the Greater Sudbury Public Library Services who asked me to do these little videos for you. And remember, at any point you can reach out to me through social media and send me a request if you'd like to see something specific, kind of like today. We are going to talk about one of the foods that really has been in the human diet for millions of years. Talking about chicken butt nuggets. Eggs. Yeah. Conventional white egg. I mean, nowadays, more and more people are relying on farmers for farm fresh eggs. In fact, I'm a big fan of that. If you can find any local farm in the area here, absolutely support them 100% by buying your eggs directly from them. So when it comes to the history of eggs, particularly in our diet, according to historians, it's been like 6 million years that humans have been eating eggs. And really, the first accounts were people eating it directly from nests. So just doing it raw, kind of like in the original Rocky movie. Good protein, right? So historically, India has records, actually, going way back to them domesticating jungle birds just in order to harvest the eggs for their production. Now that goes back to about 32 BC. And then you've got the Egyptians and you've got the Chinese, who were the first societies to domesticate hens, and that was around 6000 BC. Now, the term egg itself, well, now we're going back to like Indonesia, European origins here, and it relates to words associated with bird. But the Old English origin of the term egg was actually oig, so O-E-G. And then by the time we got to Middle English, when things kind of evolved, it ended up as A, which is E-Y. So two terms merged together, and that's why we call it an egg. Now, chicken eggs, one of the most widely harvested eggs across the world. Might surprise you that the ostrich egg is actually number 2 on the list. And I mean, huge difference in sizes, but if you go looking around, you're going to find duck eggs, you're going to find quail eggs, different sizes, even different colors. You can credit the Romans, though, as being the first ones to create the omelet. In fact, their omelet was basically eggs with some honey in it. So that might be something you might want to try if really feeling a little on the adventurous side. And nowadays, eggs really one of the most versatile foods you can find out there. However, they weren't part, actually, of routine, diets until the commercial farming started becoming more and more common. And when you take a look at the cultural stigma regarding eggs, there's a lot of it. In fact, there's Africa, I believe it is, the Musi Butama Faso. They do not let their kids eat eggs. And this is because they don't want them to become thieves. But not in the sense of, you're going to take an egg, eventually you're going to take an ox. No, what it is that they don't want the kids wasting it, because technically you're taking a chicken's life, so you're stealing a life, and that's the whole thing there with their culture and their beliefs. Now, why are eggs sold in dozens? It's a good question. It's actually a Christian influence behind that because of the 12 disciples. But when you take a look back through history, I mean, Elizabethan times, they're documented as 12 eggs per bushel. And then from there, looking back through history even more so, you got the Anglo-Saxons who would sell one lot of eggs basically as 20 instead of 12. And then medieval England, it was 10 eggs for a penny. Those times of, well, they're long gone. And we could take a look back here, even in North America, I think it was 1804, where here in North America, 8 dozen eggs, you get that for a pound of tea. Let's bring back the barter system and save on tax. How about that, right? So the entire yolk of this egg here, this is one cell. And eggs are one of the largest cells biologically around the world. In fact, the ostrich egg, again, it's like 24 conventional eggs in one ostrich yolk. When you take a look at your eggs when you're buying them, is there really a difference when it comes to the color of the shell? Well, the shell is basically breed bird dependent here. And they say that if you're really into your chickens here, apparently chickens with white ears will lay white eggs. And then you've got chickens that have red ears are going to lay the brown eggs. And then those ones that have the bluish green ears, yes, chickens do have ears, that's where you're going to get those bluish green colored eggs to go along with it. It doesn't really affect the taste in any capacity, but what will affect the taste is the species, like duck yolks. Far more fat content, it's a lot richer, and trust me, try making your pasta out of that. That's a whole new level here. So when we take a look here at basically if we have fresh eggs or not fresh eggs, and most of the time you go to the grocery store, there's going to be a date that's stamped on the actual carton. But when you buy it farm fresh, that's where it becomes a little bit gray area. And then those people who take the eggs out of the carton and then just put them in the fridge in those little slots, how do you know if your eggs are fresh? Well, here's where science kind of comes into play here, because what you're going to do is you're going to make some salt water solution here, and you're going to put your egg in that. So if fresh egg, as soon as you put it into that salt water, you know, like the cells are healthy, they're rich, they're plump, and that egg is just going to sink right to the bottom. But if you've got an egg that's been, you know, in your fridge for a little while, it'll actually float up to about the halfway mark. And those eggs that have gone past their freshness date are going to bob up to the surface. So it might be a little experiment that you might want to do with your kids if you have some time to check that out here. It's not really going to hurt you unless your egg has gone completely passé and stale, but it can affect things, people say, when it comes to the science and chemistry of baking, for example. Now, when you're making your eggs, whether you're going to be doing it in the fashion that we're going to do it today here, I've got about 4 different styles of eggs for you. Cooking time is really important. Now, this right here, this is about as perfect as it gets when it comes to making a hard-boiled egg. You can see how it's just a little tiny difference in color, and it's nice and glistening, and this right here, and this is a good hard-boiled egg. So then, if you're making like egg salad, or one of the dishes we're going to do today, which is a deep-fried devil egg, you heard that correct. That's kind of what you're looking for in the middle there. And you can even see how I accidentally poked a little hole. When you start getting that kind of green grayish color on the other side of the yolk, that right there, that's actually just ferrous sulfide. And one way that you can stop that from happening if you're making like egg salad sandwiches or anything where you still want to have that bright yellow vibrant color is to take your eggs out of the boiling water and put it directly into a cold water bath. A couple ice cubes, a little bit of cold water, and that's what's going to stop your egg yolk from turning that kind of grayish, like I said, green color, and it'll keep the outside of your yolk nice and yellow, just like that. All right, so when it comes to cooking our eggs here today, first off, I'm going to show you a very classic French style. In fact, this has gained a lot of popularity, being known as the Gordon Ramsay egg, and I'm telling you, this is next level scrambled eggs. Then we're going to start going a little international here, because I'm going to demonstrate what's called the tornado egg. In fact, Omurice is not only popular in Japanese culture, but also Korean culture. But those two egg styles are different, because the Japanese version, it's more like an omelet with a really liquidy, soft boiled egg in the middle, where you cut it open and it just kind of spills out over your plate. But this Korean version, it's called a tornado egg, basically, because it looks like a little tornado pattern that you're going to serve over top of some rice and some other little things there. This is a pretty interesting little recipe, I'm telling you. You may not break it out very often, but you want to impress somebody for a breakfast or a brunch, this is going to be the recipe to do it for you here. We're also going to take a look at those deep-fried hard-boiled eggs. Great if you're going to be having a party anytime soon. You want to have an unconventional appetizer. Barbecue competitions might even pop up there on our little menu every now and again. And yeah, that's what we're looking at here. So we've got some pretty interesting stuff that we're going to do here today, and I'll have all the recipes included for you as well, so you can kind of follow along and just kind of come along for this journey here. So we've got the French style scrambled eggs, we've got the Omurice, and then we've got the deep fried deviled eggs that we're going to do, and maybe I'll throw in one more for you there. We'll see what we'll see how we make out here today with how things go. So let's get something really important out of the way here. When it comes to your eggs and cooking them, do not salt the egg in the pan. Salt it after it's cooking, but don't, if you're making scrambled eggs or an omelet, add salt to it. It's actually going to, again, go back to that sciencey stuff where we're going to start pulling moisture out of the tissue, and you don't want that there. You want to make sure that your eggs always have a lot of moisture to it. And the other thing that you want is to make sure that you don't dry out your eggs. And here's where your two secret weapons come into play. One, butter, and the other, sour cream. Creme fraiche works good as well. A little harder to find creme fraiche, but if you put this in a strainer and just let the excess liquid fall out, basically overnight, a couple hours on the counter or in the fridge, that's where you're going to make some creme fraiche for yourself and save yourself some money at the grocery store as well. So let's get ready and let's get into our first recipe. So here we go. This is actually going to be a fourth recipe for you, so it's kind of an add-on, even though I'm going to start with it. There's something called silk poached scrambled eggs. And it sounds really difficult and really super fancy, but all you need is either a sieve or even a grater like this. Now, this is also something I use to make spätzle when it comes to it. We got our boiling water here, and what we're going to do is we're going to put this just over the top of it, just like that. Now, for our scrambled eggs, I'm just going to start with 2 here to keep this small, but this is where we're going to add our fat. Now, we don't really want to add butter to this right now, but our sour cream comes into play. So we just take it, put a little scoop in here, and that's it. Now we're going to whisk it up. And when I say whisk it up, don't whisk this to the point where it gets too frothy and foamy. It's just going to tighten your eggs up. You'll notice that I'm not salting this. Now, if I did want to salt anything here, it's going to be the water. So you would be treating it almost like you're making pasta. But here, once we do this, get everything broken up, this is really simple. You know the song Happy Birthday? You know, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Yeah, that is what you're going to sing when you put this in. Because we're going to pass this right through the holes on this grater, or a sieve if you're using it. And what it's going to do, it's going to create these ribbons. So almost like an egg drop soup or a stracciatella. And once this is all in there, just like that, you can even do a little whirlpool in the middle of that if you really want to tighten it up and make it look really super fancy and pretty. We're going to sing happy birthday twice. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. About 20 seconds, that's all you need. Now, we can take this off, put that off to the side, like that. We're going to get something to pull this out of the water, like a pasta spoon and a plate, because here, be very gentle, these are your poached scrambled eggs. Take your water drain off like that. Again, you can put it on a little rack if you want, but these are super silky, super luxurious, and ready for you to season however you want to season it. You want to throw some hot sauce on there or whatever, but all those little ribbons cook individually. And this is one of the most unique scrambled eggs that you're going to get. Again, super light. Little salt goes a long way when it comes to the seasoning on this one. Throw some fresh herbs on there as well. Didn't really take a lot of time though, did it? People will think it did. Trust me, you saw. Sing happy birthday twice, super easy. Great way to impress people with a brunch or a breakfast. Or dinner, eggs. Good really any time of the day. Recipe number 2. So this is where we're going to do the French style scrambled egg, or what's pretty much known as the Gordon Ramsay style scrambled egg. Now, this is super creamy, super luxurious, and remember, fat equals flavor, which is why we're using creme fraiche or sour cream for this. The butter, you're going to need about 3 tablespoons of it. What that's going to do is it's going to be added in 2 kind of batches there, and that's what's going to keep it all nice and creamy. You could, or put some herbs in this as well. Your really important tools, though, one, a pot. Makes it a lot easier to control the heat and to control the whole cooking process. We want this on like a medium-low heat. And the other thing is you want to get a good spatula, because that's really going to help you with the process of turning things. Don't salt the eggs prior to this. You can do all your seasoning in the end of it, and you'll see how we finish that off there as well. Another really important ingredient to this recipe, good crusty bread, because that good crusty bread, that's what's going to make your toast or your little crostini to go with this. Trust me, it just takes it to a whole new level. And much like the first recipe, looks like a lot of work goes into these eggs, but these are going to be super creamy, super fluffy, super light. You just have to manage them on the stovetop. So we got our medium low heat. We're going to put that on there, and then we're going to take our butter, which is cold and cubed, because it's going to get added into 2 rounds here basically. So we'll put that in there. You can hear that little bit of a sizzle. That's fine. Smaller batch here, so we're going with 2 eggs. Normally you want about 6 for that. And the creme fraiche, we talked about how you could put the sour cream through like a little sieve for a bit, or just take it like this, put it right in. So the key to this one here is, 1, we don't want our butter to brown, so I'll take it off the heat while I whisk. Whenever you do anything with eggs, if you get that shell stuck inside the egg yolk here, or the egg white, whether you're baking or cooking, and then try and pull it out with your fingers, it's always a real pain, isn't it? Use the actual eggshell, because the eggshell will stick to the eggshell, if that makes any sense to you. But trust me, easiest way to get a shell out of your egg. So here we go. Dump that in there. And now we just start stirring. So by stirring here, this keeps it constantly moving. You can see how it's already starting to tighten up. And now, this is where we're going to add the rest of our butter. Remember, fat equals flavor, and all of our seasoning is going to come at the end. To make sure that you don't overly cook the bottoms here, what you can do is you can take it off the heat, just kind of move it around like this, but you can see how it's all starting to tighten up already. This is incredibly soft and just creamy and luxurious. It's a velvety set of eggs. And you want to make sure that you don't overcook it, because if it tightens up too much, then you're going to lose a lot of that moisture and you're going to lose a lot of that really soft texture. One of the big complaints when people make scrambled eggs or have scrambled eggs is that, oh, you know, it's too hard. It's just really grainy. It's not pleasant to eat. Well, trust me, there's enough fat and flavor in this that it's going to be good for you. Now, like I said, you can add the fresh herbs in the cooking process itself, or wait till afterwards. And afterwards, that's when you're going to want to add your salt and pepper to this. You'll see how we turn this up afterwards, but take a look. You see how they're glistening? Lots and lots of moisture in this. Perfect. Those, good scrambled eggs. And again, take a look at the time. Only takes a couple minutes. Whether you're making a big batch or a small batch, just control your heat. Remember, you got a set of hands. You can take the pot off the burner. You can even put the burner a little bit offset like that. Just don't overcook your eggs. We're going to take those out, put them on a plate, get ready to serve them up. Again, fast breakfast that people are going to think you spent a whole lot more time on than you really did. Next on the list, omurice. So the Japanese version of this, again, it's more like an omelet that you just very carefully kind of navigate your pan. It really is a very distinct cooking style. And when it's done, it kind of looks like a pizza pocket, if you will. But when you cut into it, the center is still very liquidy and runny, and it creates almost like a sauce, and it's very decadent, and it is a little bit of a technique to figure out, kind of like this one here. Now this is a Korean style omurice, which is also known as the tornado omelet. So when we look at the world of omelets here, technically the Japanese one is an omelet and this Korean one is an omelet, but this is more of like a casual dining and street food kind of thing that you're going to find, because it's essentially an egg that's going to be on top of whatever kind of rice you want to make and whatever else you want to throw in there. I'm going to actually put some kimchi in this, and kind of a neat little thing that is going to go as an addition to this, but I'll save that as a bit of a surprise. So here's what you're going to need for this. One, obviously, well, we're going to need eggs. So just crack your eggs into your bowl. We're just going to use 2 in this recipe, though normally the recipe here is actually going to call for 6 eggs. But again, smaller version, just because it's just me that's going to be eating it. You need a good pan, put that in there, and we need some oil. So the oil we're going to use for this is just a little dab of sesame oil. Yeah, that's going to flavor your egg. And then again, going back to our golden standard, butter. Everybody likes butter. You do need a fair amount of oil in this because the egg has to cook and it's going to be constantly moving here. So we take this, do a quick whisk as that's melting, and we get probably what's got to be considered the most important thing for this, and that's going to be a set of chopsticks, because the chopsticks are going to help you navigate this around the pan to create that tornado looking effect. So for our rice, you can even use leftover Chinese food rice if that's all you have. But remember, golden rule when you're making rice, wash the rice first. Yeah. The rice and that seasoning there, that's going to be pretty much everything that this needs. Now there is a demi-glaze that we can put on top of this as well. Demi-glaze is basically like 1.5 tablespoons of whatever kind of oil you want to use and flour, which is going to create that roux. So you melt the butter or the oil with the flour in the pan, keep stirring it. When it goes from that yellowish color to more of a brownish color, then you've got your foundation for your roux. From there, as weird as it sounds, 5 tablespoons of ketchup. You want to use gochujang? Sure, go ahead, go with it. Now we want to add about a tablespoon of soy sauce. From there, a tablespoon of honey or brown sugar, whatever you have handy in the cupboard. 3/4 cup of water is going to go to make this demi-glaze, along with a 1/4 cup of milk. So think of it like this. Make your roux, then add the rest of the ingredients, cook it for about 8 to 10 minutes to let it tighten up. You can even pass it through a strainer if you're worried about it being a little bit lumpy, but this dish can be served without the demi-glaze because, trust me, ton of flavor in it as it is. So let me grab my chopsticks and we'll get cooking. So now our pan's ready. Don't let your butter brown. That's where it's going to get really bitter tasting. We don't want that. That little bit of sesame oil that we added kind of helps that, but really it also is there as an indicator for when your pan's ready because you want to make sure that it's fragrant. So this here, we want a medium-low heat, but you're going to have to work for this. This is the one that's going to take a whole lot of technique to get right, and a set of chopsticks. So with your chopsticks, you can use the cheater ones that they have out there for people who are just learning like that. But these here, these will work quite nicely. Again, we don't need to season it really, and we definitely don't need to add sour cream or creme fraiche to this one. This is a Korean style omurice, the tornado omelet as they call it. So we're going to pour this into our pan, and now we're going to move this around because we want a full coating here. We want to basically make this look like a circle. Pan choice, heat choice, all incredibly important. Now watch for those edges to start to turn. You can see the edges there. It's almost like watching for a pancake. Because when you're ready to go here, what you're going to do is you're going to take your chopsticks, and I actually use the back of the chopsticks because I'm not very good at this. But you can turn the pan or you can turn the chopsticks for this. Because now we want to grab the edges and we want to bring everything to the center and then start to twist in the center. And when we twist in the center, this is where we're going to create our tornado pattern. Now you see how it's kind of falling apart on me here? That's all right. That's okay. We're still good because we still got enough of a pattern there. And now I just got to kind of fix it by going around. And again, if you're not good with the chopsticks, what you can do is when you bring it into the middle is basically turn the pan. We'll do the same thing for you. So this one here, it's not the prettiest, but you can see how we do have that little tornado pattern going. So I will consider this a partial success. So when the tops get cooked, just keep moving it around like that. This is what's going to go over top of our toppings, our rice, our kimchi, and a couple other little things. We're going to make the demi-glaze for this coming up next. And I'm also going to show you basically a cool little thing to do because we're going to put beef jerky in this as well to really top it off. Remember, this is Korean street food, so let's really elevate it to street food. Perfect for a late night snack after the bar. Perfect if you just want to impress people. But again, incredibly frustrating if you don't know how to work a pan. And obviously, I didn't do a very good job, but you can still see the tornado-ish sort of pattern in there. Hopefully, when we get it on the rice, it doesn't look too bad with that rip in it. But hey, what can you do? It's a cooking demo, right? Things don't always have to be pretty. They just got to be tasty. Put that on a t-shirt or a bumper sticker. Patent pending. This is where it gets weird. Now, again, omurice, Korean street food, right? So because it's Korean street food, you can get a little adventurous here. So what the key ingredient in this particular topping we're going to put on it is beef jerky. So you can go to, local Beef Jerky Plus here. Go see Sean on the Kingsway and get some of that. You can buy the stuff you can find in gas stations, whatever. But we got to rehydrate this somehow. Because once you pass it through a food processor, it comes out all nice and shredded, just like that. Now this is almost like a spin on an African dish where you rehydrate the beef, the biltong. So here, a little bit of vegetable stock. Because now, throw that right in there. Finish that off with a little medley of peppers, some onion, some mushrooms in this, whatever you want really to go in there, that's fine. But now, we let this rehydrate, we stir this around a little bit, and when it starts to plump up, you have instant flavoring because you get the salt. If you want to get the spicy one, then there's your heat. Again, simple cooking concepts: acid, salt, fat, heat. And we're going to have this all together, plus that creamy tornado egg, and a little extra too, because I'm going to top it with some kimchi, and then a nice little fried rice. Really simple with some garlic and some ginger in it. Maybe a little bit of chili paste too, just to give it a little extra heat. But once this soaks up all that chicken stock, or vegetable stock is actually what we used here, and those peppers cook a little bit and that onion cooks a little bit, we're going to be ready to rock and roll with this. Now the thing is that you could cook the onions first, and you could cook the mushrooms and the peppers first as well. Doing it in this technique, the way I've got it here, this is more of like a poach. And the only reason why I'm doing this is because I want it to have that little bit of extra flavor soak up, just so that you get that, you know, saltiness from the beef jerky, and then you get all those flavors from the vegetables in there, and then that little bit of fortification from the vegetable stock. Technically, you could do this with tofu, you could do this with chicken, you know, whatever you want, but it's kind of nutty to do the beef jerky, and I'm telling you, it just really, really works. Give it a shot. We're going to make the demi-glaze now for this omurice, this Korean-style tornado omelet, coming up in just a minute. The smell coming from this, just, it's incredible. Low heat. You'll see when all the liquid evaporates from the pan when it's just about ready. And that's when you can pull it off the burner. If you make this in advance, it actually makes making this dish a whole lot easier. But you can see how most of that liquid has already been absorbed, and that beef jerky is plumping up quite nicely. Again, sounds a little weird. Trust me on this one. You're going to love it. Now we're moving on to our demi-glaze here. So we got to start our roux. So about a tablespoon and a half of whatever kind of oil you want to use. I'm just using butter here. And then we need some flour. So your flour here, it's about a tablespoon. Just kind of eyeball it, put it in there. And then we're going to mix this around. So what we want here is this to tighten up, number one. And you'll see how it's already starting to turn color in here. This is going to go from this kind of creamy color to more of a deep brown, and that's when we know that our roux is ready. So I got to keep stirring that, but just to give you an idea of how the color is going to change. So this roux is essentially, I mean, the same way you're going to make any kind of base for a gravy, if you're going to make a jambalaya for Creole cooking, whatever. It's all the same. This is just a way to stop basically it from clumping and you getting really big lumpy chunks in your gravy or your sauces. And the other thing it does is it cooks off the flour. So people who can taste like raw flour, and I'm not going to taste it here because it's all going to be cooked off. So you can see that we're starting to turn color here, which is good. The rest of your ingredients, you can get them prepped and ready to go. So we're going to need about 5 tablespoons of ketchup to go with this. Any kind of ketchup will do. Pretty simple, easy enough to find. Boom, just like that. The other thing you need is some soy sauce. So about a tablespoon or so of that. We're going to need some honey to go with this, and then water. So it's 3-to-1 for water to milk ratio for this. And it does make a difference because it just leads to a creamier sauce really when all this is said and done. And the other thing is we got to get some brown sugar, or we got to get a little bit of honey going. So I got the honey that I forgot right here. And now we basically have all our ingredients. Now you see what I mean about this changing color? So at this point here, we're ready to go. If you want to fortify this with a little bit of like vegetable bouillon or beef bouillon, the dried stuff, that's really going to just kind of amp up the flavor. But remember, it's also going to add to the saltiness, so kind of got to balance everything, right? So now we're ready to go with this. So here we go. We're going to put some honey in there. We want actually about a tablespoon, but here, because we're making a smaller batch, it's still going to end up to be about a tablespoon. Just sweet, right? Love it. Anyway, let's get our milk in there. You can hear it's already sizzling. We got to get our water in here. And then the big thing, the weird thing, ketchup. Again, you can use the gochujang At this point here, this is where you can also adjust spices if you wanted to have a little more kick to it. You can add some chili paste or whatever you have handy in the kitchen. And now basically we're just going to stir this up. And then we got to add in our soy sauce at the very, very end here. So this is going to start to tighten up as we're making our sauce. You can see how it's already starting to change color here. Soy sauce is going to make it a little bit deeper. So soy sauce about a tablespoon, again, because we're making a smaller batch. I'm very big into the eyeballing it. Well, that looks about enough. So now we're going to get this nice rich sauce. And again, we want this to thicken up. If you want to make sure that there's no lumps in it, you can always pass it through a sieve just to be safe. But as long as you stir it here, wait for it to bubble a bit, then you're going to be ready to go. So this is the demi-glaze that we are going to put on our Korean rice, basically, that little tornado omelet that we made. And you can see it's already starting to thicken up here. Worst case scenario, if it is too watery, you can always add a little bit more flour to it. But right now, we're getting a pretty good consistency on that. Seems weird with the ketchup. Even weirder considering that I put rehydrated beef jerky on this. But just trust me, follow the palette here. You're going to love this when we put this together. Any rice that you have handy, that's what you're going to use in it. And again, trick with rice, wash the rice before you cook it. And then go from there. Use minute rice, use long grain rice, use the stuff you can put in the microwave to cook. Whatever you want. It's just one of the extra little things in there. And then, like I said, I've got some kimchi in the fridge. I'm going to top it with that. I have a really nice recipe for a clementine kimchi, but that's not the one that I'm going to use. You can actually do a very quick kimchi if you have access to a vacuum sealer. That really turns out nice. So you can see here how our sauce is thickening up just by me being able to make lines in it like that. So here we go, our demi-glaze. We're going to put that off to the side because we're ready to go with that. One recipe left. Final recipe, again, kind of out there, but boy, this is a unique way to serve a deviled egg. God bless the South, deep South apparently. Everything's better deep fried, right? Deep fried deviled eggs. So you want about a dozen eggs, so you'll get 24 out of this. Basically, we're going to make a bit of a smaller version here. I'm only going to use 6 eggs for the purpose of this because I don't know if I can survive eating 24 deep fried deviled eggs, though I'm sure with Off the Chip Wagon, I've matched that calorie count, if not surpassed it. Now, for the actual deviled egg part, the whipped egg, because you're going to take the yolk out of the whites here once you boil them. This is where we're looking at things like mayonnaise. You're going to want to make sure you got some Dijon mustard or spicy mustard along the route for that. A little bit of lemon zest, which is over there across the table from me here. And a dash of hot sauce, and whatever hot sauce you want to use. This one from Thunder Bay Heartbeat, love that one. As well, there's an organic one out of Barrie called Terry's. That is a fantastic hot sauce here. So because we're deep frying these, we got to get a batter on them. So that's where we're going to get our dredge. We're going to make sure that we got our egg wash, and then what we're going to coat things with, which is breadcrumbs. But I mean, you could easily kind of follow the chicken by a cracky recipe and use things like Doritos for that. It's entirely up to you. Important thing, whenever you're doing dredge and washes, this is where you have to remember to season. So little things like pepper, little things like salt go a long way when it comes to seasoning. Obviously, it's a little bit harder to try these, but just a little bit of flavor. And if you want to go that extra mile down the aisle, so to speak, this is just some of our Broken Antler barbecue spice. We use this one on our pork a lot. I'm going to put that one right into the actual dredge itself. And also going to put that into our coating. So you give that a little mix there, make sure it's incorporated, and then we start the process. So what you got to do is you got to take your eggs, and you got to just take that little yolk out of there, put it into a bowl. Now take the white part here, and that's where we're going to start putting things together. So we're going to go a little bit of a flour coating first, because we need the egg wash to stick to that. And remember to get it all over, because these are going to go into the deep fryer. When you do put this in the deep fryer, these are going to go in at about 350 Fahrenheit, if I'm not mistaken. You can also use this in the air fryer as well. So what we're going to do is once we get these things deep fried, this is where we're going to refill these with our mixture. And we're just going to get those all whipped together and pipe it in there with a simple little icing piping bag. If you don't have a piping bag, just grab a Ziploc bag. You can do the same thing with it. Just fill it up and then more or less pipe it in. Just looks prettier. I mean, you could scoop it in, but trust me, save yourself the headache. So again, we take the yellow yolk out of the inside of our egg as much as we can. Just try and keep the whites like you would with deviled eggs. Throw it through the dredge, get it coated so that the egg wash is something to stick to. We've seasoned both the dredge, the egg wash, and technically the third thing we seasoned, the breadcrumbs that we're dipping this into. But once we got this all coated up, again, here we go. When you deep fry these, you just want to get them nice and golden brown. Put them in the fridge. Great for parties, whatever kind of appetizers you need. Deep fried deviled eggs. Once you try them, hard to go back. So if we put this dredge stuff aside and we focus on the other stuff that we need to do, once we get our eggs into there, there's going to be more coming. Again, throw your seasoning into this. And then all of your ingredients. Your mayonnaise, your Dijon mustard, a little bit of hot sauce, salt and pepper. Now you could put capers in this. You could use bacon bits in this too if you really wanted. But at the end of the day, you know what? You do you, Moon Pie. World's your oyster. You make this yours. You put your own special touch on this. Because I don't think anybody is going to be upset that you're serving them something like deep fried deviled eggs. Because number one, I don't think too many people have had these before. And number two, that is the ultimate decadent treat, really. Again, everything's better deep fried. Everything. So when it comes to this part here, the frying, sure you got your tongs. Now, when it comes to draining it, you can use a wire rack. It actually works really well too if you just put a sieve with a bowl there. And you only want this to get golden brown. You can do this in the deep fryer. You can do this in the air fryer. So use what you have, Moon Pie. Use what you have. So here we go. We've got our eggs. They've already been breaded and everything. 350. Put them in. Don't crowd them. Just wait till they get nice and golden brown. Now, the filling, all you have to do if you don't want to run it through like a food processor, just use a fork. Just mash it up, get it nice and creamy though, and that's where you'll have to adjust things like the mayonnaise content and anything else that you want to put inside of it. If you want to put herbs, go ahead. You want to put chives, go ahead. You want to put bacon, cheese, whatever. As long as it can get into that piping bag and then you can put it into the middle of these whites which are being deep fried, that's how you're going to get your deep fried deviled eggs. Simple, easy peasy. And you see, it doesn't take long till they come out nice and golden brown. Ta-da! So we've got them deep fried. We've now deviled the yolks, so to speak. And now we just got to fill the centers. So if you have a piping bag, great, use that. Otherwise, like I said, just take a plastic little baggie like this. Once you trim the end, really super easy just to control the amount that you're going to pipe in there and make it look kind of pretty if you can. And again, you want to top this with some chives. You want to top this with some bacon bits, which I think is what I'm going to do. Absolutely, you do you, Moon Pie. You do you. But this just makes a nice, neat little presentation and again, fills the centers without making a huge mess for yourself. And clean up if you're just using a Ziploc bag like this. Well, we can still use single-use plastics. Well, just toss it out, right, into the recycling. There you go, something along those lines. I'll do a couple more, and we'll get ready to wrap this up. Look how pretty those are. The one dish, that's the most steps, and probably the most challenging out of everything. Omurice. So here's how we assemble it. When I say any kind of rice will do, really any kind of rice will do. This is left over from some Chinese food this week. Basically, take a bowl like this, put your rice into a smaller bowl, and boom, just like that. You got a rice mold. Hey, that's not so bad, is it? So what I like to do is I actually like a little kimchi on this. So now we start building all of our flavors and everything that's going to go into this. And I mean, a little can go a long way here, trust me on this. So I'll just throw a bit of kimchi in here. That's going to give us that little bit of acid and that little bit of extra umami, as you will. Yeah, you know, let's go more than that. So here's our beef jerky. The beef jerky that we rehydrated, a couple vegetables in there. Basically, we're just going to take that and again, throw this right on top here. Just gives us a little extra umami to all of our creation. When we're ready from here, we're going to go and we're going to get our egg. So, take that, put it right over the top like that. You can see, like I said, it wasn't perfect. Live cooking show, what can I do? But you can still see the ridges on it. So it's kind of like a tornado egg. Here's our demi-glaze. Our demi-glaze, as we kind of just tuck it in there to make everything look pretty, we're going to put that all the way around, just like so. And again, this is ketchup based. This is a really weird sounding dish. It really is. But trust me, well worth the time, well worth the effort. So from here, well, let's kick it up one more notch. So while it's not necessarily Korean, I like a little bit of nori on there for a little extra salt. Get some green onions just for, again, a little bit of snap and a little bit of bite to all this. Once I get them off my fingers. And hey, crushed wasabi peas. Why not? Like I said, this is yours. This is your breakfast. You make this as you want to make this. And the last thing, acid, salt, fat, heat. Here's some chili oil, really simple. Quick little drizzle of that on top. And look how pretty that is. There you go. Omurice, Korean style. All ready to go. Home stretch. So let's take a look at everything that we've created here. So we'll start with these beautiful little things. These are the deep fried deviled eggs. Again, use that piping bag, get a nice topping on there. I got a little bacon, green onion, just finish this off. And fantastic. You smoke those egg whites for a little bit first. It's like next level. Speaking of next level, so here was the add-on, which ended up being the first recipe. These are those poached scrambled eggs. A little bit of spinach, some onion, bacon there to finish it off. And I got a little herb oil as well. So these little ribbons come out super light, super fluffy. Just got to remember, season afterwards. But, man, see, I'm going to have to go back for a second round of these. A little spinach this time. I know you don't pay me to watch me eat, but it's a hazard of having me cook for you. Omurice, Korean style street food. There we go. Already got into a little bit there. So we got our rice, we got our kimchi, we've got that rehydrated beef jerky. Now I got that demi-glaze on the bottom, topped it off chili oil, wasabi peas, there's nori on here and some green onion. Could even throw sesame seeds if you really want. But when you dig into this thing, you can see all the layers of goodness that are in there. And don't forget, this demi-glaze on the bottom here, this is actually made out of ketchup. So you could use the gochujang, like I said, but you get a little bit of everything on there. Oh. See why this is such street food and so comforting in Korea. It's just an umami bomb. Absolute umami bomb. Speaking of umami bombs, so here it is, the Gordon Ramsay scrambled egg. Now, you'll see, I got my little crostinis, my little toast. Those are some back ribs that we did on the smoker recently. There's some truffle, some goat cheese. These are so light and so fluffy and so rich. The trick is, try and get a little bit of everything onto that crostini for yourself, because it is just like next level good. And when I say next level good, like, oh, I could eat this all day, every day. So again, there it is. A little bit of everything, quick little bite. all next level. So I got a lot of people to feed here after those 4 recipes, but I'll have them sent and linked off to this account as well. So in the future, if there's anything that you'd like to see me make, or you have any food questions, by all means, fire off. You can reach out to me through social media, whether it's through Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, or reach out to the Greater Sudbury Public Library Services. So hopefully you learned a little bit about eggs today. And, you know, support your local farmers when it comes to eggs. Always support local. That's the way to go these days, folks. So thanks again for watching. Thanks again for putting up with me. Until next time, stay safe, everybody.